John Duncan here, Blazer Victory Podcast, here with Alex Mortensen, offensive coordinator, UAB. Week 2, spring ball. You've been here a couple of months. Have you been able to settle in any?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I don't know if settled is a word. I think we're but it's been a lot of fun. I'm really enjoying the job. I've enjoyed the staff a lot. I really like our staff. I think Coach Dilfer's assembled a really neat group, and then I really like the players too. They've been really fun to work with. So it's been a lot of fun. We hit the ground running, and obviously we still have 4 weeks left of spring football. So I'm excited about taking on the rest of that too.
And Alex, with last week being spring break, I know the players were able to enjoy a break. Do coaches really get a break during spring break? I know the grind never stops, but were you able to kind of take a break away for a little bit?
I didn't take much of a break. Before I drove home, I apologized to my family that I didn't spend a lot of time with them. I got a chance to see my parents, and so I worked a lot of it. And it's kind of funny sometimes those quiet moments when you're by yourself and there aren't distractions, there aren't other people in the office, there aren't people in and out, you can sometimes get more done. And so sometimes I enjoy the time away to, one, be, maybe increase, your productivity, or two, when things slow down, you can maybe step back and look at things from 10,000 feet. So I used it a little bit more to try to work and keep getting ahead on some things. But I do think like anything else, like you do have to have some element of balance. I think it helps you. So try to be intentional a little bit.
And just having that time to just reflect, with just being by yourself, just have some personal reflection, just take a break away from everything. So it definitely, I think getting away can help. Sometimes stepping away from your work can help you. But then, too, I think just being out of the building and being away from the hustle and the bustle and the quick deadlines and all that, sometimes you actually can get more work done, down the road. Definitely. Now, you transitioned from an analyst role at Alabama and now offensive coordinator. Can you just kind of explain what are the added responsibilities on being an offensive coordinator as opposed to just being an offensive analyst?
Right. I think the main thing is probably going to be game day, in terms of calling the game, or being involved with calling the game, however we set that up, but really it's like in terms of planning, installation, scripting, I've had other jobs where I've been allowed to coach. We also had COVID issues at Alabama that allowed me to step up and coach a few times, actually more than a few times. So the teaching and the working with players and running meetings, be in front of the, like that, none of that is new. Like I said, planning, scripting, game planning, like none of that is new at all. It's just, I think game day is going to be the biggest change. And I think the other thing too is like, you walk into a situation like this where, we're all new. So, you got guys from a lot of backgrounds, all over the place, which is actually really cool. So I've enjoyed pulling, all that information together as much as we can, but I guess what I'm getting at is it's not like I walked into this job where we were all at the same spot last year, and so it's like, well, we're just going to rinse, wash, and repeat and go put our offense in. So that to me has probably been, if there's anything unique about it, it's probably that more than anything. Which I don't know if that has anything to do with the analyst to coordinator transition. I think it's more about just the this dynamic, this situation.
Well, I know it's just the second week, but can you talk a little bit about what you've seen out of your offense so far out of this second week? Like, that's got you excited, or? Yeah,
it's right now. It's their energy, effort. A lot of the intangibles, the things that don't take any talent. Like I'm so far, I'm really pleased with a lot of those things. I mean, there's areas we have to get a lot better. We have to get more detailed. We have to clean up a lot of things. I think the Coach Dilfer was just talking to the team. I think the want to is high, and now we just have to. And as a group, we got to keep working on the how to. Mm-hmm. The details of, pre-snap and post-snap, the way we finish plays, all those. I mean, I could probably spend an hour talking about that. But that would be the thing where I think we've got to improve. But, I'm really excited about their energy, their desire to work. Because some guys want the result, but they don't want to do the work to get it. I think we have a group that works hard, and I think there's actually a pretty good culture in place initially. So those are things I'm really excited about.
And Alex, can you talk a little bit about what your offensive philosophy is going to be this season, or is that something you're still kind of finding?
No, I mean, I not really. I mean, I think the thing that
it's cliche, but I think it's really legitimate. Is it? A lot of it is about your players. Someone told me one time, and obviously I know this is audio, so I can't paint the visual, but I'm trying to show this with my hands.
Podcasting is a visual.
Yeah, yeah. But it's like your playbook starts really big, in terms of the inventory of all the football that, maybe or that your staff knows collectively and is a part of your system. And then at some point and hopefully pretty quickly that year, you figure out what players you have, what your players are good at. And so that shaves down a little bit smaller. And then somewhere you figure out what your quarterback or quarterbacks are good at, and it shaves down a little bit smaller. So I think it all really starts player-centric, first. And then, beyond that, I mean, it's, there's a lot of things in terms of, that probably go well beyond the scope of this from a philosophical standpoint, but I think it starts there.
And Alex, how does a coordinator go about just kind of earning the players' trust and kind of buying into your vision about what you want this offense to be at UAB?
I heard a long time ago, I think one of the biggest ways a coach, particularly a new coach, can earn the trust of the players is they have to know that you can help them. And so I think part of that is being a really good teacher and them learning and seeing that, hey, you can help make them a better player. And I think upon that happening and then being fair, being honest up front, I think if you do those things that, pretty quickly you can build trust. Sometimes I don't think it takes as long as we think it does if you can show them those things pretty quick.
And in regards to the quarterback, are there certain traits that you're looking to get out of your starting quarterback right now? Is there something that you look for in your quarterback, certain traits?
There are so many things. I mean, if there was one thing, then it would, it'd be easy. It'd be really easy to evaluate quarterbacks. I think there's a reason that it's, there's a track record of it being a very difficult position to evaluate, even at the NFL level when you've got this massive body of work on guys coming out of college. They still struggle. They miss on guys. But I think toughness is huge, both mental and physical, to play the position and be able to sustain performance over the season. I think you need toughness to play quarterback at a high level. Two, you got to be very accurate. Like, you can have great intangibles. There are a lot, I always joke, some of my pastors I've had have great intangibles, but they're not very accurate, so I don't want them to play quarterback for me. So, you've got to be you have to be an accurate passer, and you got to be accurate under duress, and you've got to be accurate consistently. That's through the course of a practice. It's practice to practice. It's week to week. It's month to month. The more consistently accurate you are, it's a lot easier to play the position when you can throw the ball where you want. And then there's decision making. Decision making is a next thing. And then finally, leadership is a big part of it too. I always say that you're not a lone wolf. It's not an individual sport. You're not a track athlete. It's not golf. It's not boxing. It's not it's not MMA. You got to bring your teammates with you. I think that's part of the job. And guys do that different ways. I've been around guys that are very vocal and, are gifted vocally. They're gifted in front of the team. There's guys that are not so vocal, and I think you've got to be careful about not painting with broad strokes and thinking they all have to be the same. Some guys are going to be more quiet. They have different personalities, and they can still be great players and great leaders, but they do have to figure out how to lead their way. And obviously I think that starts with example, and I think it starts to an extent with some servant leadership traits, but then beyond that, can they lead, the guys around them and make them better?
And just a couple more questions. Obviously you were at Alabama for 7 or 8 years. Can you talk a little bit about your experience just working under, a couple great coordinators and working under Nick Saban, who, one of the best to ever do it. Can you talk a little bit about what you learned under him and under that system?
Yeah, I learned so much at Alabama. It's unreal. I went there with very high expectations about what I would learn, and they were surpassed. Obviously it starts with Coach Saban. He's what he's advertised to be and beyond that. And it was really neat having him involved and come over to the offense side of the ball too, because he's got such a defensive background. His defensive knowledge is, obviously off the charts. So the things he offered to the offense from that standpoint were, very helpful and things that, benefited me a lot. And the way he saw the game. And then, I could go on and on. There've been a number of great coordinators, and they were all great. And they all, were different. They all had, different strengths and weaknesses. I shouldn't even say weaknesses, but I would say their strong points varied, from guy to guy. And so, I think it's important to ultimately be yourself, but I've learned a lot from each one of those guys. Some of them, with how they coach the quarterback. Some of them with how they,
saw offensive philosophy, some of them with how they set up their week, how they organize their week. And, you have a short you only got 6 days really to get ready for a game,
right.
So how did they plan that time? Some of them did a great job of figuring out who their star players were and, finding ways to feature them, get them the ball where, other teams, defenses couldn't take them away. I mean, there have been so many things. Each one of these guys, brought different things to the table, but I can't say enough how much I benefited from each and every one of them.
And Alex, I'm sure you had plenty of opportunities to move on from Alabama. So my next question is, why UAB and why Trent Dilfer?
Yeah, no, look, to me, there have been opportunities to leave, and part of it was the job at Alabama was attractive, and the job at Alabama got better and better each year. So it wasn't necessarily an easy place to leave because I loved working there, and I also loved the players too. We had a really neat group of players pretty much every year I was there. Now, so why to me it was going to take something really good to leave. I really believe in Coach Dilfer. I'm excited about him. I've gotten to know him a little bit through the years, and then really more so leading up to him taking this job. And so I just got excited because I think he's intelligent. I think he's a good leader. I think he's got a lot of great ideas himself, and I also think he's got I think the best leaders I've been around have enough humility to take counsel and listen. I mean, he's got so many of those traits. I was really attracted to all those things, and then on top of that, I like this. I think this place has some advantages. I think there's some good things here. I love our. A lot of people talk about 5-hour radius in recruiting. I think our 3-hour radius in recruiting is really good. So I'd be lying if I said I didn't like this part of the world. I'm from Georgia. My parents aren't too far away. I've been, in the state for a while. So, there are a lot of other things, from a familiarity standpoint that made sense too.
Last question. That's a great transition. Your dad, Chris Mortensen, longtime great NFL journalist. What was it like growing up the son of an NFL journalist, and how did that shape your viewpoint of the sport of football?
It's a great, it's something I probably would need to give more thought because at the end of the day, it was still dad. You know what I mean?
Right.
And what was cool is he was really busy in, the fall. I mean, he was busy all year, but he could, in the spring, he was actually able to coach my baseball teams. You know what I mean? So,
wow, okay.
Like he was, and we won quite a few championships. He was a pretty good baseball coach. But the thing we had, a lot of it, like we had a very normal, like father-son relationship, I would say. But I think what's interesting where there's probably some things where it's like being a coach's kid because you're around the game, but it's also a little different than that too because he was covering it. And so I think by being around the game, it naturally helped me create an interest in it. But I thought my parents were good from the standpoint they actually didn't let me play football until I was in 7th grade. I got to play flag football. So it's kind of like they held it away from me, so I almost desired it more. So I think being around the game but not getting to play it, I think actually in a weird way increased my interest in it. I don't know if that makes any sense.
It does, yeah.
And so I didn't develop burnout or any of those type things that I hear some guys do that are around it so much. So
right.
I think it actually created a really healthy balance for me to where, I had a good relationship with the game.
Well, Alex, I appreciate it so much. You taking some time to come on the Blaze of Victory podcast. Now let's go inside and get warm.
Yeah, okay. Thank you.